Hello and welcome to Under the Brown Rainbow, where South Asian queer stories come to life. I'm your host, Kashif Harrison. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a queer performer and presenter and a proud South Asian queer man.
Love that.
Love that for us.
Right.
Well, today's episode is for someone who is in a very close-knit community, as we all are being brown and queer. It's a special episode for someone who thinks that if I become myself, someone will tell my parents, tell my loved ones, and I'll lose them all. No. That will not happen. But today on the show, I've got someone who is beautiful, gorgeous, but also inside out talks about community. We've got Dilz Prasad on the show. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
You are totally welcome. The pleasure is all ours. Now, Dilz, you identify as they, them.
Yes, I am a baby. I'm a they, them.
Perfect. Love that. Loves. Now, you are a first-gen Australian Fijian Indian, queer and non-binary,
Yes.
but also a community radio host.
Yeah, that's me. Those are the many hats I wear, and plus 5 others. I'm pretty sure I have undiagnosed ADHD. But yeah, that's me in a sentence.
Perfect. Well, can I ask you, all right? Now, first of all, being a Fijian Indian, now that's a big one for us because I feel the thing that I've learned from the first season is that Fijian Indian community here in Australia are very close-knit.
Very.
They are like, literally, you know every single one of them.
Every single person.
How do you be yourself, queer, non-binary, in a Fijian Indian community space where everyone knows everyone and everyone has their assumptions and opinions?
Yes, this is a very good question. I would say with a lot of resilience, to be honest. But yes. But look, I have been out for a long time now. I would say that I've been able to, bridge a lot of the difficulties that were there originally for me. And I would say that I'm able to be myself, not only with my immediate family, but with my broader community. And it may not be a spoken thing, but I do my best to be myself in whatever space that I am in. And that does include, family gatherings or broader community events and things like that. And of course, you get some of the judgmental stares, you get some of the looks or some of the chattering that happens quietly, but that's okay. You do it with a lot of resilience and a lot of gratitude and humility. I think those are the recipes for being yourself in a close-knit community.
Oh, I love hearing that. I feel now we hear stories of confidence, proudness, where people just want to represent themselves as their true selves, right? Rather than the version that everyone likes and loves, but is going to be not okay with you. So let's talk about your childhood.
Yeah.
So growing up, were you in Australia? Were you in Fiji? Where were you?
Yeah, so I was born here, but culturally was quite, cultured in, as a Fijian Indian. I went to primary school not knowing any English, had to learn that afterwards. And so I grew up here in Western Sydney, Liverpool represent.
Wow.
Yeah. And I spent majority of my life there. I went to public primary school, Catholic high school, difficult time, must say.
See, that is where I was lingering in.
Yeah.
How was it navigating between your Fijian Indian community and culture
Yeah.
and then Australian community and culture?
Oh, I mean, you take the queerness out of the equation and just that in and of itself is a bit of a challenge because your parents raise you in a country that they haven't grown up in. They raise you the way that they've grown up. And so it's a learning experience for all involved. And as a child, you don't appreciate that. Now that I'm much older, I can look at my parents and say, wow, you were trying to raise kids in a country that was completely foreign to how you were contextually raised. And I commend them for how they tried. And then you add in the queerness and it becomes very interesting because you don't really see, at least when I was growing up, you don't really see much queer representation and especially not in positive light within our community. And so looking towards, our Western peers for that safety and connection and safe place to be yourself and share your identity was great. But then you find that you're lacking that culture, who you are, that context. I know for my early years when I was navigating being myself, I did feel like I had to choose between my culture or my queerness. And I have community in both. And choosing where and how I would connect with myself by being with these people was a bit hard. And now I think I'm able to say that I'm just who I am and embrace all of those different things at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, just hearing that, I feel, is just so motivating for us to hear, because I feel brown queer communities or brown communities itself doesn't have such stories where you just feel like you can actually take community, you can take culture, but you can also take your identity hand in hand. Let's talk about growing up. So growing up, you're at a Fijian Indian community festival, like your family's relatives, everyone surrounded, right? What was that moment when you felt like, listen, I don't think I am like them. I'm not a girl like a boy. I'm different. So what was that moment that made you think, oh my God?
Oh, I think it was constantly there in my childhood. I mean, I knew something was different and I couldn't really figure out what. I thought I was going to grow up to just somehow be a boy when I was a child. I'm not sure if I had started figuring out that maybe I'm also interested in women, or if there was an unpacking there of gender for me as well. But I guess I would feel it particularly when women in my community would be getting ready for events. I would see them get all dressed up and I would enjoy the process so much. For me, it was kind of like a character that you have of being dressed and dolled up for a wedding or something like that. But I didn't actually want to be, quotation, pretty outside of that. I just wanted to be me. And that was something that I felt was different about me and my other Fijian Indian peers at that time. Plus, I was a very big tomboy. You would catch me playing soccer, every kind of sport. And I had already made up my mind that I would not learn how to cook and a bunch of other things. So there was a lot there for me to sit with in terms of, why am I different? And it was both the gender and the sexuality, which I feel like I have unpacked over time.
When your family was looking at you being tomboy, were they okay? What was going on?
So I was quite fortunate that because I'm the eldest daughter and for majority of my life, it was just myself and my sister. My parents kind of didn't raise us with as strict gender norms as is typical for our society. And so I would participate in all of the manly duties as well. And I don't think that they really took any issues with me being a tomboy. Of course, I would get the, girls don't do this or girls don't do that. But I would mow the lawn. I would, clean the pool and just play soccer. My parents were very encouraging with that. In that respect, they were quite understanding and loving. And that did change for me when I did come out. And that was a bit difficult to bridge because, I felt I was very lucky that my parents always told me that you could do whatever you want and you can, you always be yourself, always be independent. And in many respects taught me to be fiercely myself. And then when they came to find out a little bit more about their daughter, that did change for me. And so I guess I'm grateful in childhood I didn't feel so pressured to fit into gender constraints in that way. But I did have a lot of pressure about hair because brown girls and their hair, everyone knows that story. Cutting my hair for a first time was a big battle, and it was one. And to be honest, since then, I've kind of maintained short. I've fought my way through it, and now I think no one can really say anything to me about my short hair. So, yeah.
Can I ask, see, what were the initial conversations? So you said that, your family, you're very fortunate that your family was okay with you being a bit different. And then they did have some issues when you came out, right? Which I feel every brown parent does, no matter how good they are. And if someone tells otherwise, then they're they're not. They're not going through the tough life as us savage hustler brown kids are going.
Yeah,
The
must be
hustler
nice. Yeah.
will have to come out to their families. Can I ask, so what were the initial conversations you had with your family? So what were the words? What were the themes? What actually made them okay with you being queer?
Ooh. It's a bit longer than that initial process. It's been a very, very long journey. I think maybe next year or maybe even this, it's been 10 years of us trying to have these conversations. And I think now we're finally in a good place. So it has been tumultuous. Initially, I came out after I had been outed, to be honest, to my parents by a family member. In the form of gossip, I'd cut my hair and people talk. It's a close-knit community and I expected the same. And I didn't know that this was going on. And when I'd heard about it and I'd heard that my mum was defending me, it just didn't feel right to me to let her defend me and me not be honest. And so it happened a lot sooner than I'd hoped. And I basically told her, Marg, I do like women. And I think at that time I may have used the word gay because that's what my parents can understand.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think there was much more talking after that because there was a lot of crying. It was quite difficult. Yeah. And I love being brown. I wouldn't change it for the world, but the drama that ensued. Right?
There one day, the next day, it's a whole different story.
Yeah. And I can laugh about it now. It was difficult at the time, but there were the silent treatment stages, a lot of going back and forth, a lot of lively discussions is the best way I'll put it. I think setting up for myself and being who I am has meant that my parents are able to respect that about me. Yeah, did end up leaving home, didn't talk to them for a considerable amount of time. Our relationship was quite strained and it took its toll on me, as I'm sure it did on them. But I think now that we've breached that gap and we're reconciling, we're in a much happier place and we have this mutual respect and understanding for one another, which we may not have had if I were to have stayed at home, if I were to have not told them at that time as well. That's kind of how these conversations have happened. And now, and I mean quite recently, only in the past year or two, I'm able to say to my mum, oh, my ex-girlfriend, be a bit more open in that way, whereas I couldn't before.
And I think there's another thing when you come out to them, that shock, that drama, overcoming that part of the story. But then there's also another journey that you take with them when they see you with a partner.
Definitely. And I think that my parents weren't ready to see me with a partner. I know that because I had been seeing people in the past, but once I had started dating people a bit more seriously, and I did the thing where you try and hide, but you can't really. With an Indian
Pictures with them.
Yeah.
Selfies every day.
Yeah. And so obviously people put pieces together quite quickly. My parents weren't ready for that. And I'm ultimately grateful for how it worked out, but that shock is really real for them and for us.
So, Dilz, tell me, do you think there are less brown, queer, Fijian Indian stories out there to tell? What's going on? Why are we not getting more of them? Do you think there's a fear that, hey, if we tell more stories, the community is there's going to be a backlash? The reason why I ask is because there's a lot of stories from India now we see. There's been stories from here in Pakistan, if I'm being very honest, about queer subjects. Less from other communities who are brown, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, a big variety of reasons. I think it also depends on, representation and the platforming that Fijian Indian communities have in terms of being able to share stories. Because of our cultural context, we mostly consume Indian media and other things like that. But then there is that element of culture where it could be considered a bit more conservative, possibly even in comparison to Indian culture, because it was exported, in the 1800s, 1700s, when people were undergoing indentured labor. And so in maintaining their roots to culture, they've kept these views where our Indian peers may have changed or progressed in society for how they perceive these topics. So I know for my parents, my grandparents, they wouldn't know anyone that's queer, to be honest, in their groups. And there are, of course, people that are queer in those age groups. And so now they're parenting a different generation that's grown up here, and these stories are coming up. Well, sometimes there is a bit more of that backlash because of that unfamiliarity, and maybe also that tying of, oh, it's because we're in Australia. You've been hanging out with Australians too much.
Yes, you've been. What is that word that they always want to use? And it keeps on coming to my head, but it's not. You are influenced.
Yes.
This culture.
Yes, influence. That's the one.
All right. Now you are a community radio host.
Yes.
And you are a non-binary queer community radio host.
Yes.
How's that working out?
It is amazing. Honestly, I only stumbled upon this as a hobby because a friend dragged me into it, and I couldn't pass up. And now we run this show together, and it's great. It's great to be able to be myself and bring that behind a mic on the weekends. But I do hesitate on telling my parents about radio. They haven't heard me yet because we talk about everything that's queer and everything that's non-binary. But I know they are quite interested and they are proud that I do that. So there is a bit of work there for me to bridge these things. I don't think they're ready to hear what I actually think yet.
See, being in radio and having that community radio experience myself, don't you think that and I think this is just a year you're into that.
Very new.
But do you think that you will also take this opportunity, or probably with your show, educate the current community in being okay with the word queer, being okay with non-binaries, being okay with that culture?
Yeah.
Because then they hear you again and again and they're like, oh, these girls are kind of doing something different. We want to hear it, And then next minute, that a grandma is listening to you talking about this to their daughter. Don't you think being this community radio host is going to have that impact somewhere down the line?
Oh, definitely. Look, I don't know if I'll be doing it on the show that I currently present, but the skills that I've developed being in radio will definitely take me further in terms of bringing media or creating content that serves that purpose. So I originally got into radio because I wanted to get into podcasting. So I have a lineup of projects in my mind. I am just time and resource poor, but I would love to be able to do something for my community where it doesn't necessarily need to be about queerness in our community. But I hope that by sharing our stories and talking about collective Fijian Indian history, and just by being a queer person, people can understand that we do exist, and then use that as a springboard for education down the track.
Yes. And I feel it's such a beautiful journey that you will hold in future. Because when someone sends you a DM saying that, hey, listen, growing up, I never saw someone like you. You're representing us.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
That's why we all
that's exactly. And that's why I think Tricone has brought this beautiful podcast into flesh because we want to tell these stories. We want to be out there saying that, hey, listen, you're not alone.
Yeah.
We're with you.
Yeah.
Representation matters deeply to you. And from what I can tell, and also, I think the Fijian Indian community, for them, representation matters a lot, right? We need those stories. Were there any role models growing up that you would tell that, hey, that person is an ally to me, or that person could be okay with knowing the real me?
I will always say number one, my nani. Yeah, my nani. Look, I'm not formally out to her. I'm sure she knows, but she has shown me such care and just has always inspired me to do better, has always been there for me, even in the times where I know it has been difficult for her. Like when I was outed, I know that she heard the goss, but she never used it against me. Her consistency of love and selflessness in the way that she's given it has always made me look up to her and has told me, be yourself, because when you're not yourself, you don't honor the people that have come before you. By being true to me, I'm able to be true to the people that have put me here. So definitely my nani.
Big up to Nani.
Big up to nani.
Nani, love you, Nani. Now, can I ask you that navigating multiple identities and expectations of the community, how do you manage that? And what sort of a mental state of mind you need to manage all of these juggling expectations, but also being true to yourself, but also being part of this community that you love and adore? Talk us through maybe the mental health state of your mind when we're dealing with all of this.
Well, when I was dealing with it, it wasn't a good time, I'll tell you that. And it took a lot of years in therapy. It's an expensive task being yourself because you have to go to therapy.
Buddy, being queer is expensive.
Yeah, it is. It is. They don't talk about this queer tax enough.
They're expensive.
Yeah. But no, look, at that time, it was very difficult. And I had to rely on a lot of my peers and found support in the ways that I could to move on by. I think the things that you need depend on where you are on your journey, because what I need today is to just remember who I am, and that's enough for me. But when I was younger and I was starting sharing who I am, well, I needed to be able to compartmentalize and see that I really love my culture. And just because people from my community are maybe not as welcoming as I'd like, that's not how I should relate to my culture overall. And those things are separated. Other things that I needed then was a safe space. And I found that through people that weren't in my community, to be honest. It's only after I've found a chosen family that now I'm meeting beautiful people within the community. But for a while there, that wasn't an option. And so I would say to anyone that's going through anything challenging at the moment, surround yourself with loved ones and people that bring out the best in yourself. And with time, anything's possible. You can be who you are in its entirety always. It might just take a bit of time for the people around you to understand what that means. But just because you're brown doesn't mean you're not queer, and vice versa.
You will get there.
Yeah.
You will get there. You'll get to that point where you're like, hey, listen, this is me.
This is who I am. Be about it.
Now, if I ask you, or if someone asks you a question, that how do you answer when someone asks, where are you from?
Depends who's asking. It depends who's asking. But I would just say Western Sydney, to be honest. If someone in Sydney streets asked me, if I was overseas, then I would say, I'm Fijian Indian, but my ancestry is Indian, but I live in Australia.
Oh my God, I have to do that. You know how hard that is? Telling everyone, listen, sit down, and everyone's asking, where are you from?
Yeah.
You say, okay, let's sit down.
Yeah.
I'm Indian, Australian, Pakistani.
The grocery list.
Exactly.
It's going.
And then the proofs, and then the receipts.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and then you add queer, then sometimes people do say, oh, I didn't know Indians can be queer. Well, here I am.
Exactly. And that's sometimes very good, affirming thing to tell them. Hey, listen, brown queers exist.
Right?
Exactly. Now, Dilz, lovely having you on the show. It's been such a beautiful way of knowing you, but also understanding that you can be your true self. It is a journey you will, you always will have, but you'll get there. And that's the happily ever after every queer needs, and we don't need someone for it. We need ourselves to get there,
100%.
right? What would you tell someone who is, watching you right now, listening to you, and is brown, is in the Fijian community, is worried that there might be gossips about me happening? What would you tell them to just calm them down?
Your best friend will always be yourself, but surround yourself with other really good friends as well. When you're able to be confident and secure in who you are, no one can take that away from you. And queer Fijian Indians exist. We've always been here, and you'll find more of us out there.
Yes, just reach out.
Yeah.
Or not. It's up to you when you're ready.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Perfect. It was lovely having you. Now, if people want to stay connected with you on your journey, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Dilz, Prasad, Prasad.
Perfect, Dilz. Lovely having you under the brown rainbow. I hope this rainbow has beautiful colors to represent every brown queer community out there. And it was just a pleasure knowing you in person.
Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it. This is so much fun.
Awesome. There you go, guys. This was another episode of Under the Brown Rainbow, a podcast by Tricone Australia, bringing South Asian queer stories to life. This is Kashif Harrison signing off. Make sure that you like and share this video if you're watching us on YouTube. You make sure you follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from, and let the world know the beautiful stories being shared under the brown rainbow.